What am I doing up this early live streaming, you might ask, if you're if you're in the Midwest. I am thrilled to be doing a very special edition of Spotlight India with my new friend Shashwat Mookherjee, who's
Yeah.
joining us from India.
It's not yet coming live actually.
Oh, it's not. Well, it says it's
Yes.
live on it says I'm live.
Yes.
So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
going to
Now
go
now
by
it's yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Now it's coming. Now it's coming. Yeah.
well
Yeah.
then we're both live. We're doing the thing.
Yes.
We're both on the stage here. So, Shashwat, thank you very much for joining me. We're going to be talking about Satyajit Ray's 1966 film Nyack, the Hero, in a little bit. But before we do that, um, you were kind enough to invite me to talk to the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, Bachelor Sciences Film Society, right? And this is
Yes.
a couple of
Yes.
weeks ago. And it was
Yeah.
a wonderful interview. I had a great time, and it was great meeting you and the rest of the Film Society. And I invited you to come here and talk to me about a film that you had actually recommended, because I'm always on the lookout for new Indian films to talk about and explore. And this is definitely the oldest one I've talked about in like the last 6 or 7 months we've been doing this. So I'm excited to get into it with you. Before we do that, we're going to learn all about you and your filmmaking journey and your student career in the sciences, and you've got a very kind of unusual story, I think, balancing both the sciences and the arts. So I want to learn about you, but first of all, how you doing?
Yes. Firstly, thank you so much for inviting me to the show. I'm very honored to be here, and I'm doing good. And yes, I'm excited to talk about Nayak and also the films. And let's see how it goes. This is the first time I'm giving an interview, so I'm pretty excited as well as nervous too. So thank you again for having me.
Of course. And thank you for me, this is, it's 7 o'clock here in the Midwest, in the States, but
Yes.
it's about like 5:30, I think, or is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's 5:30 p.m.
PM
in
there?
India. Yeah.
India, yeah.
Yes.
So,
It's
um,
evening.
yeah, I wanted to have something that will give us, some kind of reach, make sure we have some people watching, but it's
Yeah. Yeah.
also not the dead of night for me. Although I was up very early this
Yes.
morning. So let's
Yes.
talk about it. What are you studying at IIT Madras? Tell me about the school
Uh,
and when you started and what your program you're in.
well, I am studying undergraduate majors. Like I'm in the under enrolled in the undergraduate program, and I'm doing majors in data science from IIT Madras. And like just after we finish high school in India, which is known as the grade 12, class 12 to be very precise, I joined in this degree because I was kind of I liked this subject, so I joined in over here. And yes, and that's what I've been doing for the past 2 years as a full-time student. And in my free time and in my as my hobbies, I make short films, and that also I've been doing since my high school years. So grade 10 to be precise. That's 2018.
So, when did you first develop a love of movies? Was there a particular film that kind of hooked your interest at a young age?
This is kind of a very long answer because there are two parts to it. So the first part is coming from my family. So my family is a huge film buff, and the main person behind this is my grandmother. She unfortunately passed away, but when I was a kid, so when I was just 5 years old, 4 5 years old, every night at 9 p.m. I used to watch one English film with her. So during her college days, she was members of various film societies and various film clubs. And during those days, so it's like I'm talking about in 50s, 60s and 70s, she was exposed to all these French movies, German movies, this, that, so all different kind of world cinema. And at that time in India, even these Hollywood movies, when they used to release, they used to be like 3 4 years later than their original release date. So like yeah, nowadays it's a very different scenario. Nowadays many Marvel movies release in fact one day before in India than in the States. But back then it was a different scenario. So like she was like a film buff. And every night at 9 p.m. when I was in class, when I was just 5 years old, I started watching English films with her. Because another thing was the length of these English films were shorter. So because it was just 2 hours, so I could sleep early because the next day I had to go to school. That is the reason why. I used to watch these English films with my grandmother, so every night. So like for 3-4 years, till I was 8 and 9, so I'd watch all those. Like it's not the exactly the correct age to watch James Bond films and all these films, but yeah, I had watched all those films by the time I was in grade 3, and that really kind of piqued my interest into that. And my parents, my grandfather, my father, my mother, every one of them is a film buff. So even some for like when Avengers came out and everything, before I could tell, my father had already booked the ticket. So this is the kind of scenario in my house. So they know more than me, so I learn from them. So this is one part of the story, and the second part is I have been going to film theaters since a very young age, and my earliest memory of falling in love with movies is due to one star, and that is he's a very big star. That is Shah Rukh Khan. So I guess you have heard his name, and I have also mentioned to you before. So I had watched Shah Rukh Khan's Dawn: The Chase Begins in theater. So I was just 4 years old then, and I just loved that. Like that was my first time I remember the full thing, what is happening in the theater, and I've loved his mannerisms and everything, and I've been a fan since then. So any Shah Rukh Khan film comes out, I'm like always there in the first day, first show watching. So and I'm a big fan and admirer of his work. So yes, so Shah Rukh Khan is also responsible for will take me into the movies. Even though he doesn't know, I hope he gets to know it someday. So, so these are the two influences for the filmmaking journey or filmmaking for like genuine love for films.
Well, first of all, at some point we got to talk about the film that got you, into making or into watching movies. I want to watch this
Yes,
movie you were telling me about. So that'll be
yes,
for a future episode. But also, it's so sweet watching movies with your grandmother every night.
yes,
I mean, there's a difference between watching movies, because I used to watch movies growing up as a kid,
yeah,
but it didn't really occur to me, oh, I could make those. Did
yes.
you talk about that with your grandmother or your family? Like, oh, this isn't just something we enjoy for entertainment. This is something that you could do. You call it a
Yeah,
hobby. I question that because I've seen your short films, and this is not, a hobbyist. Oh, I just go out and piddle around the weekends. These are actual productions here. But
yeah.
in terms of like talking to your family about, did they encourage you to get into filmmaking? I mean, you're also doing the data sciences thing, so you've got two
Yes.
distinct paths that you're kind of working with together.
Yes, the thing is, well, as you said, like as I told, they were very much exposed to these films, and since they were also like, especially my grandmother and grandfather during their colleges, they were also a part of these film societies. They also got to attend many of these seminars, so they knew many behind the scenes story of how these films were made, and each and every time a film used to come up. They used to tell me, this is how they shot this scene, this is how they shot this scene. It's not that they were going too much or super technical into inside the filmmaking process, but these general trivias or these directors Q&A, all these are out. And yeah, my grandmother was a big fan of Satyajit Ray, so that's where I she only she only when I was Satyajit Ray has made a lot of movies. So Nayak is a very mature, it's a very deep film which we are going to talk about in some other way. But he has made many of these kids movies, which again you can watch it later, called Gupiga and Baga Bhai. So all these films, Gupiga and Baga Bhai and Hirok Raja, they say these are kids films made by Satyajit Ray. So I saw these when I was a kid, like when I was 5-6 years old, and she used to tell me all these interesting stories of how it was made and everything. And I was since very early childhood, I was very much interested about what is happening behind the camera. So YouTube had just come up in 2011, I remember, in at least in India. That was when, yeah, you could search up YouTube and you can start. You can just search anything in YouTube, and I used to kind of watch behind the scenes of these Harry Potter films. And at that time, since everybody in school was getting into Harry Potter, so I was again very interested into Harry Potter. Okay, Harry Potter. So I used to watch these behind the scenes clips of these Harry Potters. And back then there was not there was not a these BTS scenes were just randomly shot from somebody's mobile phone. There was no director's commentary or anything. You must know. So I used to see all these, and I used to get very fascinated. And when I was in class 3, I mean grade 3, so I actually got to see one live film shooting in front of me. So it was a Bengali film called Ostro, and it was just shot in our near neighborhood. So I was watching the making of the film, and while all my friends were busy to like they were busy meeting the star of the film, because as I told you, in India it's a very big thing. Film star is like it's close. It's like we worship film stars, as I told. Initially, I also thought Shah Rukh Khan had come, but again, I was disappointed. It was not Shah Rukh Khan; it was some other actor, because back then movies meant Shah Rukh Khan to be. So my friends were busy meeting the stars, and I was fascinated by this one man who was wearing this hat and had a big microphone in his hand and was yelling "action cut" and had four different sets of monitor in front of him, and I was fascinated. So, and since not many people were going to him, and I was very young, and I was very small kid, so they allowed me to sit beside him in the monitor. So I saw this entire film. So they were shooting one action scene and one song sequence, and I saw this, and I was like, my God, this is so great! Like, just this man is yelling action, and everybody is starting to do this. Then this camera is going in a track, and it was like a magic. It was very magical for me, and in theaters when I watched the same film, I used to wonder, my God, when I was watching the shooting of this film, there were like close to 100 people behind the camera. Somebody is a spot boy, somebody's holding the camera, somebody is a gaffer. So I didn't know these terms back then, but there were like close to 100 people, and everybody was watching. And then suddenly in the screen, it's like it's totally different. It's a totally different environment. They were showing a different scene in a different place. It was inside a hospital, but the way it was shot, I'm like, my God, how is this magic happening? So all these kind of things influenced me to, okay, uh, I should research more about this. And I have my free time, and I don't like to spend, and I don't like to go out much. So yeah, let me just make movies.
Talking about being on that film set, a few years ago, I was working at a company, and Fox Television shot the pilot for the TV show Empire at the
Okay.
building that I worked at. And so for a
All
couple
right.
of days, they brought in the crews and the trucks and the stars and
Yes,
everything.
yes, yes.
And we got to, when we weren't, sitting at our desks, we got to go and watch them shoot scenes, and then to see how it was all put together on television. It's like, oh, just off screen,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there was all these
Yes, yes,
people watching, and they shot like a boardroom scene in the
yes.
basketball court of our company. They made it look like an office. I'm like, this is so weird.
Yes,
But
yes,
yeah,
exactly the same thing happened over here.
but it's that magic of movies. And I just wanted to let people know who might have not have put this together. I'm still amazed by it, but you're 20 years old. I mean, you're talking about like watching Harry Potter when you're a kid and going to these, film sets. This was not that long ago. And so, we'll
Yes.
talk a bit more about the actual films that you've made in just a bit. But I mean, how do you balance? You just said that, in your free time, you don't go out a lot. You're, mostly interested in focusing on making your art. But how do
Yes.
you balance that with pursuing a degree in the technical sciences? Because I mean, I imagine they both have to be very demanding.
Yes, yes, that is true. But like I kind of sacrifice going out, as I said. So many of my friends become angry with me for this, that I don't hang out a lot with them. So that is true, because if so, what I do is usually I follow this pattern that when it's the exam season and everything, I focus on studies, and when it's the holiday season, I make films. And again, so I kind of select the projects which can be done within that time frame, and and that's how I really balance it. And in fact, to be very honest, I myself don't have that clear answer, because these are the only two things as of now. I won't say that I don't like going out or anything like that for the rest of my life or anything, but like till now, these are both things only are which I'm doing properly. That is, when it's free time, I'm making movies, and other than that, I'm just studying. So sometimes, yes, sometimes I don't study much, which reflects in the poor grades because of so, so that happens sometimes, because sometimes you're too much tempted to, I have to do this, I have to do this, and you imagine various stuff that, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So that happens, obviously. And but yeah, but you have to again study, because if you get bad grades, then this movie might stop again. So yeah, so so I have to study also, and do this also. That's the kind of balance I do.
Well, I mean, it's great. I guess I gotta question. So in your free time, you make movies. Do
Yeah.
you have free time from your free time? Do you ever get to just sit and relax and watch TV or read, or is making movies and that whole process, is that relaxing to you somehow?
that that is relaxing to me, for me. Yeah, I told about going out, so the only place I go out with my friends is the theater hall. So I wake them up and I go for a very early morning shows like 6:30, 7:30. So because that's when the theater is empty, and it's very relaxing to watch a film in an empty theater because you get to analyze these scenes and everything. Normally I watch this film twice in theaters. So one with a packed crowd, one with an empty crowd, so that I can analyze. And that's my that's going out with my friends. And so yeah. So and another thing is, in free time I just watch films. Yeah, but yes, I have to admit that I don't read a lot. That is true. That is true. Yeah, I don't read physically a lot, but digitally, yes.
Oh,
To
sure.
that, digitally I read physical books, which I don't read much. But yes, so in my free time I watch movies. And yes, when I'm, let's say, when I'm developing a film or a short film, it's usually to fit the. I usually select, like till now I select the projects which fit in a particular time frame. So it can be done within 1 month, it can be done within 15 days, it can be done within 5 days, it can be done within three nights. So like, let me just tell you, you saw Night Walk, you saw the Black and White Life,
Hmm.
that was made in 3 nights. Dino Run was made in 5 hours. So it was right from the ideation to the rendering, it was made in 5 hours. So it was for a competition. So this is how I do my films. And when I'm not studying, I just watch movies and YouTube, and just, yeah, that it's very boring. I agree to many
I
others. It's just very boring. So yes.
don't think it's boring. I just can't get over the fact that you said, if I understand correctly, you go to the movies, to cinemas at like 6:37 in the morning. They have movie
Yeah.
theaters that
Some
are
of
open
these.
that early.
Yes. Some of these theaters open very early, and some of these shows are, actually, the thing is, many of these English films don't get so much wide release as Hindi films or any other Indian language films. So these films are playing in only two, three theaters, which are having shows at either very early morning or very late at night, say 11:30 p.m., 10:30 p.m. So it's not possible to go so much late at night with friends. So the second option is to watch it early. So I remember, I went to watch Elvis. So it's a huge influence on me. So I love Elvis, and I went with my friend, and we were just and it was a very interesting thing. So me and my friend were the only people from our age group. So all of the others, there were three other people, and they were all above 50 years of age.
Oh
And they
yeah.
were surprised too, because there was another film playing just opposite to that theater, just opposite to that screen, where it was some Hindi film. I don't remember. I don't exactly remember the name, but it was more catered to our age group. So they, in fact, the ticket, the person who was examining the ticket, they even asked us that you are going to watch Elvis. have you, have you bought the correct ticket? And I remember, the recently Creed 3 released, right? Creed 3. So over there, me and my friend, we literally had to tell the theater people to open the door. So they thought we had come to see another film. So like, no, like they're saying that this film is happening at other hall. It's not screen number 3. Then I had to show them ticket. No, screen number 3. You're supposed to. The Creed show is happening. Then they checked their systems, and then they started. So it was literally two of us in the entire hall, three of us. Bullet train, the same story. So
Wow.
this is the kind of films which are not, in these cities, which are not widely released as in the states, and they are
Well,
mostly held in weekdays and everything.
yeah, usually like when you hear about movies being that early here in
Yes.
the States, it's because it's a big tent pole like Marvel movie where they'll literally show
Yes.
it
Yes.
for
Yes.
24 hours like Avengers
Yeah.
Endgame or something. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a different story here also. That's the Marvel films are playing always. You can be at 5:30 p.m. You can be at 1:30 p.m. You can be 7:30 p.m. Marvel films is like any other Hindi film, because India has a lot of Marvel fans. So India has a lot of Marvel fans. Marvel films is a different thing. Tentpole films, Marvel, DC, all these are different things. But I'm talking more about these standalone films, or films which are, which are like not associated with the title of Marvel or DC or these Mission
Oh,
Impossible.
sure.
Yeah, Mission Impossible is again having a huge fan following in India. Then Tom Cruise. I mean, Tom Cruise is having a huge fan following in India. But then there comes a film like Triangle of Sadness, or which won the Palme d'Or this year in Cannes, or or something like Nope, and all these
Right.
films. These are all independent films. So these are just playing here for 2 weeks or 3 weeks maximum. And in fact, I have one animator friend who also worked on a film with me. It's called The Sharpest Pencil. He's a very talented animator, and he makes independent films on his own. So he does everything in Blender 3D in his own computer. So many times he and both of us, we, even though we stay other places, we are the only two people who are just going to, even in fact in our friend circle, like, who are actually going to watch that film. So so these are the kind of things which happen.
Well, I gotta say there is a similarity there, because like Nope and Triangle of Sadness, I don't even know if they played for 2 weeks here in the States. Didn't have quite the impact I think the studio was hoping
Yeah.
for. So I do want to ask. Well, first of all, we've got a couple of comments here, if I can find the right cursor.
Okay.
They're not so much comments as just expressions
Oh yeah,
of
Jackson
love and
Films. Yeah,
joy.
Jackson Films. Yeah. Jackson Films. I was just talking about him. So he's a great filmmaker. You should just check out his channel. He makes amazing movies. So he's a very talented filmmaker. And he's
Excellent.
again, like, he's of my same age, and he learned filmmaking. He's focusing more on animation from YouTube and everything. And he's a film buff. Many times I consult him for my own movies.
Awesome. Then we have Pranshu
Yeah, again,
Jaswal.
Pranchu, he's from our film society. He's a member of the film society, and he's working with me in the documentary. He's a very talented manager, production manager. He's the production manager of the film, which we are going to announce shortly.
Shh. Well, that's great. I do want I do want to ask you about the IIT Madras Film Society, which you're
Yes.
not only the head of, but you actually founded. So, how does that come about? You start school in data sciences.
Yeah.
How does it occur to you to start a film society? Were you just talking to other students like, "Hey, we all like movies. We should organize," or what was the story
Yes.
there?
So like the thing is, in India actually, this is a in India what happens is till grade 12, that is till their high school years, many people cannot pursue their hobbies and passions. And in fact, because there are a lot of exams you have to give, and there is a lot of academic pressure, so many people just cannot follow their hobbies, or they do not have the free time to pursue their hobbies. So what happens is, in these colleges or during their undergraduate studies, so there are various societies and clubs in which, people can, or the students, they only organize everything the for their for the other fellow students. So this is a culture which has been there in Indian colleges since time immemorial. So it's been there for a long time. In fact, as I told you, my grandparents were members of these societies during their uh, college days. So like when they used to work as faculties and other researchers in various institutions, so that during that time, so you can imagine in the 60s and 50s also, there was this culture of these societies and everything. So since this was a new degree, this IIT Madras BS degree was a new degree, and there was a many of these students were forming various societies. So there is a dance society, there is a music society, there is a fashion society, there is a MUN society. MUN is Model United Nations. So there is a tech society, and I was, we had already kind of made one film for IIT Madras BS degree. But yeah. So I need to give a little bit context about this. So in India, what happens is, in these residential programs, you live in hostels. So just like in any Harvard or MIT, like there is this hall of residence. There's
Hmm.
this thing. So in India also, those are called as hostels. So you live in hostel, and especially in the IITs, what happens is that each student is very much attached to their hostel. So it's like their when they're 4 years in the college, it's their home. So it's like their own region. So these hostels are a big thing. So since this degree was kind of a hybrid kind of a degree, there was these houses. So there are 12 houses in our degree, named after various forests in India, and all these houses have a various governing body. Everything is done by the students only. So for there, we made a film with the same people. So Ashwin Hebbar, who is the Film Society's manager, Pranshu and Srimanti, who is the PR head, Shruti, who is the writer of the film. So all of these people, who are a part of this upcoming film. So I worked with them because they are a part of the same house. So we made a film. It was a screen life movie. So there is this film called Searching and Missing, the kind of films
Oh
that are
yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was very inspired by that, and that time there was a very spike in COVID cases. So all of us were locked down in our homes. So we said that okay, we our Republic Day is coming up. So 26th of January is the Republic Day in India. We will make a movie, and Republic Day is celebrated because the Constitution of India like it came into effect on 26th January. So that is why the Republic Day is celebrated. So what happens is in our IIT's in our IIT's student body, there was also this constitution which was being written, and it was supposed to be launched on the 26th of January to coincide with to celebrate the Republic Day also. So we thought that okay, let's make a film about this. That we'll be making a movie, and the challenge is that none of us will get out of our homes. We have to make everything through Google Meet, and it has to be a compelling and thrilling story. So I took these 3 points and I developed a story out of it. And all these people, we shot everybody. It was just a meet like this. It was screen recorded and it was edited, and a 14-minute film was made. So I worked these amazing people, and since then only we thought that okay, since we are having this amazing community of film enthusiasts, and most importantly, all these people I mentioned, they are way more talented than me. So I look up to them, and I learn from them. So it was like I may not get this opportunity to meet with and interact with all these people for I don't know when again I will get a chance, fascinating chance. So I have to do something with this. And so a few months later there was this fest organized online, where actually the documentary film idea came up. So Mrs. Kodai ma'am, who is our head of student affairs, she kind of told me that make a documentary about this degree. So I was like, okay, I also have a similar idea, but I need a team. So she told me that okay, you can select your team, and I was like, I know the best team in the world is with me, so I want them only. So I'm going to form the film society. So that's how the film society was actually formed. It was not just to kind of yeah. Then we realized that yes, we are already, if we are forming a film society, it doesn't mean that we are going to produce only films. So yes, we are going to do all other activities also. So yeah, initially it was a little bit difficult. So it started with 7 members, 8 members. So we have Pranshu Jaiswal, Ashwin Hebbar, Shruti Datta, Srimanti Chakraborty, Sushnigdha Shah, Kaushalesh Upadhyay, and Rajashri Roy. So all these 7 people, amazingly and talented people. And so these 7 people along with me, so they trusted me to kind of okay, it can be done, and that's how the film society started. And the reason why these 7 people were selected, because like these are the most talented people I've ever met, and they are doing so many things. So like Ashwin is like one of the best managers I've ever seen. So the way he manages these film society productions and all these formalities and everything, it's like above it's like way I'd never seen someone so professional. So Pranshu, same with Pranshu, and writers like Shruti, Srimanti, they're so amazing and talented writers. That yes, the working pattern may be different from everyone, and since physically everybody is not together, but these are the most talented bunch of people. Kaushalesh, who is an amazing graphic designer. So all these posters, in fact, for our interaction and everything, you saw those posters. It was designed by him, that one person. So he's designing everything and making sure that he's delivering everything on time. Rajashri, he's a fantastic cinematographer, and he is responsible for all these events which you see at IIT's BS degree. So he does all the cinematography and everything. And Shushning though he's the secretary of the film society, and I call him the film god. So because he knows so much about movies, so much about movies, and I go to him, I learn more about movies, and okay, I have to improve in this, I have to improve in that. So these are like I consider them as my mentors in a certain way, because I go to them and I learn from them a lot.
Well, that's great. I mean, like when I first heard about a film society, I just imagined a bunch of people kind of sitting around talking about movies and watching
Yeah,
movies and all this stuff. But
yeah,
you're
yeah,
actually sort of filmed a society around filmmaking, which is pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
So I do want to talk about Nyack in a few minutes. I know we had some other. We're going to talk some more about your short films. I do want to touch a bit on your short films, but in the interest of time, I'd like to propose that maybe next month we come back and talk about talk about another Indian
Yeah.
film
Yes.
and continue our conversation about you and your
Yes.
journey
Yes.
in the
Yes.
film
Sure.
society.
Sure.
But
Sure.
so the short films that I've seen of yours are remarkably well thought out, not just story
Thank you.
wise,
Thank
but
you so much.
visually. Um,
Yes.
you there's a sequence in Circa 2020 where there's a girl
Yeah.
dancing in her apartment,
Yeah.
and there's some visual effects and some sliding effects.
Yeah.
There's do you generally storyboard out your ideas, or do you kind of find them in the edit? I'm also thinking of this great scene at the climax of the Nightwalkers Club, where
Yes.
there's it's kind of a montage of people getting into
Yeah.
fights
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just
Correct.
it's fun and disturbing at the same time. I just wondered,
Yeah.
do you,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you storyboard these out, or do you just is it all in the script? Do you find it in the edit, or is it a little bit of everything?
For Circa 2020, again, it's a long story, but I'm going to keep it short. That was all those in Circa 2020. That was my school friends. All of them were my school friends. So it was actually for one event held in school, but due to some time constraint issues, and ultimately it couldn't work out. So I released it in my channel. So it was actually, again, it was shot in everybody's home through everybody's phone, the similar way in which Bandipur Republic was done. So this was the reason, and as you said, those visual effects and everything, no, I don't. I'm terrible at drawing, so I don't storyboard anything. So yeah, but I write extensively about what I want to achieve, and and to be very honest, I have it in my head, and I find it very difficult to explain it to someone. So especially for Circa 2020, that worked. That was totally in the edit. So while I was editing, I was just thinking that how can I make it a little bit more visually appealing, because the camera was still, and
Mm-hmm.
all those Hindi film songs which are playing in the background, those are like, I have to at least, in a way, how can I make it more visually appealing if I'm having these constraints. So the only way to do it was, just to make it, properly edited way. So that's how Circa 2020 happened. And as for the Nightwalkers Club, it is concerned, yeah, that was a very well thought out scene. I'd planned it a lot, and we had shot it for many days. So I had explained it to them, and and especially for that sequence, I had it in my mind that I want it in that way. It should feel as if a comedy is happening. It's comedy as well as it's strategy. So while you're watching the film, you're laughing like hell, but at the same time you're thinking, oh my god, these guys lost their bet. If you see the character of Paul Uncle, who's playing the oldest guy, he's drinking in the morning, which is not the case. They usually drink at night because he's frustrated, and they're fighting over stupid and silly reasons, so which doesn't need to happen. And all of these are my neighbors, by the way, so they are all just staying beside me only. And that's how. So that scene was totally visualized, and it was planned a lot in advance. But Circa 2020 was on spot, like
I
by
do
design.
want to my last question about your films before we talk Nyack, and
Yeah.
again we will continue the conversation. But you said that you cast your neighbors in those parts. I
Yeah.
look, I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking there's something about in all of your films, but particularly in the
Yeah.
Nightwalkers, these people feel like they are naturalistic in a way that doesn't
Yeah.
quite feel like regular people off the street, because I've seen a lot of movies where it's like I'm going to cast my friends, and yeah, these are
Yeah.
not trained actors, but
Yeah.
are they trained? Do you live in a neighborhood of performers or what? Because it was magical.
Yeah, so trained actor out of that, the person who plays the role of Sudarshan, Anshuman Chakrabarti, he's also working professional. So he's having a full time job, but he's trained in theater. So yes, only he's having a proper theatrical training, and all these people, others you see, with them I used to do theater myself. So I used to act in my childhood. Since when I was in grade 3, I started acting till grade 11. So that's where I kind of learned the art of acting, the art of directing, not in a formal way, but that was for a theater. And it was nothing formal. It was not in front of a huge audience or anything. So all these small cultural functions in Durga Puja, which is a big thing in West Bengal, especially in West Bengal, in part of India, it's a cultural festival. So over there, these cultural functions used to get organized, and I used to perform with them. So that's how I know them all. So all of these are like Ronin Paul, who plays the role of Gopal. He's a retired engineer. He used to work in a very prestigious government job, and he's an engineer, by the way. So it's his hobby is acting. Then Madhumita Chatterjee, who appears at the end of the film as the lady who gets newly recruited, she is a retired teacher. So all of these people are passionate about acting, and another process I follow is that I backtrack. So I look at, okay, so these are the people interested. This is the subject I want to tell a story about. These are the resources I have. I can only shoot with a phone. This is the car I have. This is the road I have. I know my complex is my stage. I know I live over here. Nobody can stop me from shooting over here. So these are the resources available. So I make a list of it, and then I form a story out of it. So it's kind of a backtracking process about as to go. So how can I make a movie with this limited resources, with these limited colors, with these limited lights? So those those bar sequence which you see, those are
Yeah.
actually shot. Those are shot actually with using Diwali lights. In Diwali is a big festival in India.
Right.
So Diwali lights were used, and one just one disco light which is used as a small disco light which is used as a showpiece. It was just used, and we were shot on top of a rooftop with just a small shed. But it was shot with it was shot with zoom lens, so that it feels it's a very large landscape. It's in a very open top roof, but the choice of lens was to make sure that okay, it feels like that. And if you very carefully notice, it's been shot in low angles to kind of make you feel dizzy. You should be. My goal was that when you watch Nightwalkers Club, you should be disgusted by their behavior when you are seeing them in there. And I am glad that you are kind of totally relating to that, because that was the goal. And yes, and in fact, to talk a little bit more, in the opening scene also, there is this shot of Sudarshan entering with the car. So there is this triple exposure shot. So there are three shots on top of each other. So he's looking over there, he's opening his eyes, he's tired and everything. And yeah, by the way, the shopkeeper scene which follows, he's a real shopkeeper in our neighborhood. So I told him, do you want to act? You just don't have to do anything. You just the way you speak with me, you have to just do that. So that's why you fit the role perfectly. He's a real
Was that
shopkeeper.
the same shop that was in the Black and White Life?
Yes, exactly,
I
exactly. The
recognize the
same. Yeah,
advertisement
yeah,
on the
yeah, yeah,
door. Yeah.
exactly. Yes, yes, it was the same shop. It was the same
But
shop.
no, look, I mean, first of all, the club scene in the Nightwalkers, I wondered while I was watching it. I mean, I was out of the movie so much while I was watching it, but in a good way, wondering about
Yes,
how it was made while still being invested in the story. I wondered
yes.
you're a young guy. How did you get into this bar, this club to film this scene? And you just made the whole damn thing up. And also, did I understand this correctly? You shot it on your phone?
Yeah, 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 I just shot it in this. This is what I shot it in. So like and that time, this was not even. So I asked my father. So my father very generously and kindly gave his phone. Like, please, I want to shoot this in an iPhone. So he gave me that phone, and he told like so. And I just had one gimbal, but we didn't use a gimbal. Everything was handheld because it fit. It kind of fit the mood. So yes, that's how I. In fact, I don't own a camera as of now. Everything is shot in either a phone or it's a camera which is rented. I don't have a camera. I cannot operate a DSLR till now properly.
They say, movies nowadays you can shoot them on your phone, and usually it's just like, haha, shoot on your phone, but you actually are shooting movies on your phone.
Yes,
That's amazing. So I want to talk about another amazing film that
yes,
you recommended,
yeah,
Nyack by Satyajit Ray.
yes.
It sucks because I feel like I just got all these other questions that I want to ask you, but we're gonna have to save them for next time because I could talk to you for like 3 hours. But okay.
Yeah.
So some background on Sajid Ray, like, because he, I know there was like a box set or something released a number of years ago, and I didn't
Yes,
know it was his films, but now I'm gonna go search
yes,
that out because watching this movie, we had talked a bit about it before, we agreed to watch it, and you had mentioned that there's a lot of contemporary comedy or contemporary
yes,
commentary in this
yes.
movie. I'm like,
That is correct.
okay, maybe, but for watching a film from 1966, I kept writing pages and pages of notes about the things that they're talking about and the way they're talking about them.
Yes.
60 years ago, you could have you could take this movie and recast it with Brad Pitt or
Yeah.
something and
Exactly.
make
Exactly.
it a modern film and not change the screenplay one
Yes.
bit. And that's not an
Exactly.
exaggeration.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
so it's about an actor who's traveling from, he's a Bengali actor and he's traveling to
Yes.
Delhi to receive some kind of an
Award.
award. I
Yeah.
don't think they say what is. I guess it's an
Yeah.
acting prize. His
Yes, yes,
name's
yes. Some acting some prize. So they in the film they don't really mention what exactly they are going to, and they don't kind of Satyajit Ray doesn't portray much importance on the award he is getting. But normally in India, what happens is there is these national awards which are awarded by the government. So these actors, filmmakers, and everything, they all get these national awards. So for that, many people, for those who are winners, they have to go to Delhi. So New Delhi is the capital of India. Over there you have to go to receive the award. So that's where you can presume that he was going to receive a national award.
okay. I guess it's kind of like going to the Oscars. Like you have to show up and do the whole red carpet thing, and they don't just mail it to you. But
Yeah.
so this guy Arundam, who shares your last name.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, true, that is true.
I thought I was reading something incorrectly, or maybe I was too tired when I was watching this movie. I'm like, wait, that's wow. But he's on this train journey to, and it's like a day, into night, into the next day journey, and
Yes,
he's just on this train with sort of regular people. He's sharing a
yes,
car with a
yes,
family who's got, I guess, a teenage or preteen daughter who's kind of
yes,
obsessed with him, but she also has the flu.
yes.
Her father is some kind of a giant executive, and one of
Yeah,
the other passengers who's on train with his wife is trying to land a big contract
exactly. Yes,
with the guy, Mr. Bose.
yes.
There is a journalist or an editor for a new women's
Women's magazine.
magazine
Yes, yes,
that Arundam kind of gets to meet and gets to know throughout this journey.
yes,
So
yes,
it's an actor kind of being called on to reflect on his career and his life choices and his
yes.
friendships and how those have all been affected by his quest for money and fame. I think
Exactly. Yeah.
underscored by what I understand is a very famous sequence where he has a dream in which I mean, it's breathtaking. He's in a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
desert full of money,
Exactly. I
rupee dollars,
exactly,
just, and it's not
exactly.
just like, oh, we're going to shoot some
It was
close-ups
kind
and
of
make
a
it
it was a quicksand. It was a quicksand. So like if I
right.
what I have to tell you about a little bit about, so these phone calls are actually representing the calls which he was getting for tempting him to take on more and more, and ultimately
Hmm.
he's seeing all those skeleton hands who have kind of buried them in the quicksand of money, and ultimately he also is getting buried. And Shankarda, who was his mentor during the, yeah, coming to Shankarda, exactly, that is the culture in West Bengal. I was talking to you about theater. I used to do the exact same kind of theater with over here. So over here, my for me, Shankarda was two people. There are two people, I should name them because for them I've learned a lot. Sorry, I was deviating. Their name is Abhijit Chakraborty and Shuja Nyagi. So these two people are they are like Shankarda for me. So they are my drama instructors who used to do maybe other kind of jobs. And exactly, this Nayak film portrays the culture appropriately. So over there also they are showing they are preparing for Durga Puja's performance, and that's exactly the culture in Kolkata, in West Bengal actually. So what happens is all of these people living in a neighborhood, they come together and they just put up a performance, and it can be a drama, it can be a dance drama. So it's a cultural function. So that's how the same story is there for Arindam, and in fact it's the same for many of these actors you see who are coming from Bengal. So Durga Puja is a very big thing in Bengal, and that's influence is shown correctly in Nayak.
Well, I mean, we get I didn't realize this was going to be kind of a flashback movie when it
Yes,
starts because that comes in probably a little before the halfway point. Um, but when he's having this dream, initially it starts off very kind of romantic. I mean, there's this kind of great kind of
yes,
chimes, and
yes, yes,
he's in
yes,
a
exactly.
giant, it looks like sand dunes of money going as far as
Yes,
the eye
yes,
can
yes.
see. I'm
Yes,
just
yes,
thinking
and
again,
there
like,
was
how
also
did they pull this
notes
off?
flowing away. There was also you can feel, if you properly watch that shot in the beginning when there was sound of these wind chimes, the notes were also kind of flowing.
Hmm.
You could see that there was wind, but suddenly when it started to get tense, and there was this brilliant shot I should mention. The film is in black and white, but there is a change of lighting, and I was surprised when I saw that when a black and white scene became even darker. So it was something, how, my god, how do you do it? And just as that scene transitions into, maybe let's call the second part of the dream sequence, what happens is, you see the money, the notes, they stop flowing. It's just one big desert. It's a deserted place with no wind flowing, and it's just telephone calls and everything. And if you properly analyze those camera movements, those sound, and sound is a very big factor in this scene. Sound is a very big factor. First it was wind chimes. You feel like, it's dreamland, it's money, it's everywhere. It's like a mountain of money, which is what it is. And then it slowly turns into a quicksand of money.
And his mentor is off in the distance, and he
Yes.
reaches out to offer his hand, and you see his. I don't think at this point we realize, spoiler alert, that his mentor is dead, or died
Yes.
some time ago. But his face is all cracked and very papery. It's an effect I
Exactly.
haven't seen before. It was pretty amazing.
Yes. So that was again a symbolic representation of, you've just, you did not listen to me. Now I'm not going to save you. So again, yeah, this is again a spoiler alert in that way. But that's what actually Shankarda told him, that you do not get into the movies because there is a business side of it, which does not respect the art side of it. So an artist's job is to create art, not to think much about the money. You should not think about the commerce side of the acting aspect. You should think about the artistic side of the acting aspect. And that's what Shankar Das told him, and he didn't listen to him when he passed away, and now he's not helping him. So that was the kind of the whole symbolic thing, that okay, you fall down, I'm not going to save you anymore.
And that was one of the characters that he kind of talks about. He also talks about the manager that he came up with from the theater company. He
Yes.
talks about his one friend who was sort of a young radical, and
Yes.
was constantly talking about, like, let's go on strike and let's
Yes,
rise
yes,
up and
that is true.
organize. Whereas Arundam was just sort of like around the corner reading his lines, like, yeah, my friend's talking about his politics or whatever.
Yeah.
As they fall, they kind of there's a police raid, or no, it's not a police raid. It's I guess the another faction of workers. There's kind of a riot, and Arundam gets knocked out with a brick or a rock. He says that after that, he lost touch with his friend for about 5 years, and he comes to meet him after Arundam has become, rich and successful and famous.
Yes.
He wants to use him as sort of the face of his cause.
Yeah.
And there was a conversation. There was a line, I have it here somewhere in my notes. Okay, I don't have it at my fingertips because my writing is sloppy at 4 o'clock in the morning. But essentially, it was like, you could stand up and, be the face of this movement, but once you start injecting politics into the entertainment, it's going to make the art suffer. And so he wasn't kind of into that, and he said, look, I can't even get out of the car and talk to these people because it'll be bad for my career. If you want money, I'll give you money, but leave me alone. So it's all these different themes of people needing things from other people that they perceive to be more successful, and the people who are more successful having conflicted feelings about it, or just like, what is the only reason you're interested in me because of, what I am and not necessarily who I am. I think that's one of the crises that really comes across in this film.
Yes, exactly. The thing is, because what happens is, his friend Biresh, he thought that he could actually use his image of influencing people. It works in the same way. What happens is, we buy our favorite, when we see our favorite actors or favorite influencers nowadays for a particular brand. Let's say, for example, I want to buy a particular coffee. Let's say, yeah, you're drinking coffee. So let's say it's promoted by some particular actor. So what happens, it's simple concept of marketing. You're tempted to buy because, okay, and if I take the example, yes, Shah Rukh Khan is selling this pen, okay, I have to then buy this pen. So I'm more in attachment with the image of that particular star. And that is especially true in India because, as I told you, and it was very much relevant in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Nowadays it's also there, but it's a lot less. That is this image of star. It's not an actor's film, it's not a director's film. It's the film about who is the star in the film. So the star's name was, very much, it was very much printed in bold letters, that this star is starring in this movie. So that is the reason why you are going to watch a film. And a film in India is like an event. So a family of 6 will hire a car, they will go to a theater. So it's like a picnic outing for them, as I told you. So they're going to park their car in the theater's parking space, pay for that. So it's like a day out. So it's like an event. So that is the attachment people have with their favorite star. So that is the attachment. Arindam Mukherjee stood for success. It stood for perfection. And if he was kind of seen doing all those political activities which are bold, which may or may not be true, I'm not commenting on that, but which may or may not be true. And if that kind of as you also noticed, Arindam was afraid to give the interview because it might tarnish his image. So he was very concerned about that image of himself, that okay, if the cause may be right, but he still wouldn't take any risk because it might it might affect his market value in the box office. Because at the end of the day, he's a product. He's an employee working for the brand Arindam Mukherjee. So that's the whole point of refusing the offer, for not even standing up for his friend.
And again, this is something that you could imagine telling the story today, and
Yes.
people would totally understand it. It's kind of amazing that they had these insights, more than half a century ago. But there's talking about the interview that he sort of gives,
Yes.
to this. I can't remember the name of the journalist that he was
Uh,
talking to.
the character's name is Aditi.
Oh, I did. Okay.
Yeah.
So she isn't really interested in him or in movies. It's only when someone she's traveling with, another couple, they're kind of starstruck, and her friend is like, "Oh, you should go talk to him, and if
Yes.
you
Yes.
interview him, this would be great for your women's magazine," because she's
Yes.
struggling to sell subscriptions to strangers
Yeah.
on a
Yeah. Yeah.
train. Whereas if
Yes.
she got an interview with Arndam, that could like really
Star.
make it. And he's reluctant, she's reluctant. They eventually kind of do something
Yeah.
together, but at the end there's this great question of, well, what are we going to do with this information? Does it even get off the train with us? And
Yes.
there's a sort of a beautiful moment. I don't want to quite spoil it, but she has
Yes.
a line that was just so kind of heartwarming.
Yeah.
And even though they don't necessarily end up together, I feel like they have an
Yes.
understanding that is a bond that
Yes.
neither of them expected when they
Yeah.
got on
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
train.
Yes.
But yeah, there's all this talk about reputation and a constant fear on Arendam's part. This theme of the three flops keeps coming
Yeah.
up because
True. True.
he's
True.
been an actor for a number of years. He's very popular. People are screaming his name and wanting to chase him at the
Yeah.
train station. But he's talking about at the beginning of the film, he's got a new movie that just opened up, I think, like a week or 2 weeks early,
Yes.
and his manager is kind of reluctant to tell him about the numbers of the reception.
Yeah.
So he's like, "What if it flops?"
Yes.
And I guess the rule is the perception that if you have three flops in a row,
Yeah.
people
That
will
is
forget
true.
about you. They won't respect you anymore. There's an older actor who has sort of fallen on hard times, even
Yes.
though
Yes.
he gave Arndam a bit of bad business when he was
Exactly.
first starting
Exactly.
out.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
Arndam isn't really in a position right now to really have to worry about that because A, he doesn't know if his movie is flopped. B,
Yes.
he's far from having three bad flops, but it just kind of shows the
Yeah.
insecurity of getting to
Yes.
that level
Absolutely.
of success and having it all stripped away and forgetting, how to be a person again.
Yes. So as I told you, that was very much relatable in context to Indian audiences, because what happens is there is a popular, as I said, that every a Friday can make or break your career in the film industry. So a film releases usually in Friday, and how much the opening is, how much it is happening. See, nowadays people are not so much, they are not so much worried about who is starring in the film. So you're not, when you're going to watch a Marvel movie, you're not going to watch you're not going to watch a particular actor, you're going to watch the particular character. So there can be recast there now, and now there is multiverse. So the actor, it really doesn't matter anymore. But over here, the those at those days, mostly, the ticket sales used to happen based on, as I said, based on one actor's name. So if your story can suck, your story doesn't need to have any three-act structure or whatever, anything. But if your actor is great, and even though these movies were great, so they became stars because these movies were great. Maybe at different times, different kind of demand from the audience, but that's how the industry used to work back then, and till now also it's the same. But nowadays there is a more shift towards the content side of it. And at those days, what exactly is a star? So the thing is, the star, a star is a person about whom you don't know much. He's a mystic. He's having a particular aura. The way he walks, when he walks inside a room, all heads turn towards him. Oh my God, he is over here. He represents power. You don't know much about him. So earlier, what used to happen, you might only get a glimpse of your favorite star in a monthly or a bi-monthly magazine. And he looks perfect. He's having this gorgeous Impala car with himself, and he's driving that. So that stood for perfection. A star stood for perfection, and that is the reason why he was so much vulnerable and insecure about his own position. Because nowadays, if you see, nowadays these actors or these stars, they are talking much more openly about their insecurities, about their problems, openly in social media, because social media is a kind of a tool which allowed the general audience to live the star life. They could post the picture perfect version of themselves. So they could post these amazing holidays in which they're looking perfect. In fact, there's a personal thing. I when the first day I logged into Instagram, all these friends with whom I've been in touch for like so many years of my life, when I saw them on Instagram, I'm like, oh my God, this is a totally different person. And so this is a totally different person. Like it looks so perfect. The caption is so perfect. The
Oh, the
image is so
filters and
perfect.
all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's so perfect. Like my God, just 10 minutes ago I talked to this person in real life, and over here it's a totally different thing. So,
Well,
social media is
Instagram's
allowing the yeah.
Well, I was going to
Yes.
say real quick, like Instagram is weird because I post on there a lot to promote the show and stuff,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not even that you want to put up a picture and then you decide if you want a filter. They bring up the
Yes.
filter menu like right in your face, and you have to skip past that if you don't want something.
Yes,
So it's
yes,
it's it's really
yes.
affecting
Yeah,
our
yeah.
brains, I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, 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 yes. In fact, I'm not a very good Instagram user, so I really don't know how to post properly. So that
That's
with these
that's
filters
quite
and
all right.
everything. So as I was saying, so this social media is allowing people to post a picture perfect version of themselves. So many are living that star life nowadays, which is again having a different effect on, which is the reason why, in nowadays you are seeing these actors and all these film industry professionals, or in fact any people from any part of the profession, come out and speak about your health, about your insecurities. It is okay to be real, it is okay to be normal. Whereas and again, ironically, they are speaking about that in social media only. But let's not get into that. So this is the reason why Arindam was very much insecure about tarnishing his image. Because if the people could see his real version, if because at the end of the day he's just another human being. He's not a god. He's not a magician with whom, like he's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But the way they are marketed, they're shown like they're the perfect thing. And he was just afraid that this interview which I may give, it may just totally ruin my career. Because those days people used to believe that yes, this person doesn't live in normal house, this person lives over somewhere, in some other place. He flies, he doesn't walk, he fly. So this is the kind of image they had.
Well, it's also, at the beginning of the film, if I remember correctly, he was kind of perturbed that he wasn't able to take a flight to Delhi, that he
Yes.
would have to take a train. And after the movie's over, I'm thinking that's probably because of what you're saying. The less
Yes.
he's around regular people, like he
Exactly.
can handle being on a
Exactly.
plane for 2 or 3 hours, but if he's got to
Yes.
be on a train for a day, that means he's going to be around other people and it's more exposure, and
Exactly.
perhaps someone's going to tarnish his reputation, as you mentioned.
Yes.
There's one last scene I want to talk about before we get to your announcement. Um, it's a spectacular scene the way it was filmed and edited. Later in the movie, Arundam is drunk on some whiskey, I believe, and he's kind of
Yes.
toddling
Yes.
around the train. He goes out the back and he's sort of hanging over the railing, and he's looking down at the tracks as they're speeding
Yeah.
by,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
it's like this gleam, this perfect like
Yes. Yes.
silver
Yes.
bit of track in the
Yes.
moonlight, and he
Yes.
keeps
Yes. Yes. Yes.
cuts to his face and then back, and he keeps zooming
Yes.
in on the track through the edit, and you just
Yes.
feel like he is a heartbeat away from trying to reach
Just
out and
exactly.
possibly do
Exactly.
something that wouldn't be so great for him. But
Yes.
it's almost like the idea of reaching out to grab the star, but it's also
Yes.
reaching out to kind of trying to escape stardom as well.
Exactly. You have put it perfectly. And that's the and in fact, if you can see in another analogy also, this which is totally again my analogy. I have not read much articles about this that it's kind of also showing the track of his life. It's a rail
Yes.
track, and it's a track. So that's another analogy you can take in. So there are, you can numerously interpret it in many different ways. There's no ending to it. And the way it is edited, and that's when, in fact, there's also another scene, which is a funny scene, which follows. He actually goes to the old, and again he goes to another old film critic, Chatterjee Babu, who hates drunken people around him, and he is having his dinner, and he then covers his nose, and at that point, Arindam realizes that, just, I don't give a damn about anything else. I am going to be the real me, and that is the reason he calls Aditi from the chair car where she was sitting, and she decides that, okay, I'm now going to vent out everything to her. So that was the moment of, the final act, you could say, that you could understand that there is no point in being worried about what will happen in the future. There is no point about being, insecure anymore. So let me just tell it all to the reporter.
And also, but at the very end, the last shot of the film is him arriving at the place where he's going to receive his awards, and he's got the sunglasses on. He's being very agreeable.
Yes.
So we're kind of left to wonder, has he achieved sort of balance? Like, is he going to continue on as a star, but perhaps become a new version of himself,
Yes.
where he's going to be more, less insecure about, people finding out? And he's just, I can
Yes.
walk in both worlds. There's sort of a mystery to that last shot, which I really
Yes,
liked.
yeah, there was this kind of this open ending kind of a film where, and that those two characters are never going to again meet. But there was an exchange of ideas. The Aditi, who was the editor, she did not have any knowledge about how the film world works, and she was very, in fact, she was very reluctant, as you said, to talk to him, because she hated that world. And in fact, now I remember there is also one dialogue where she says that, uh, Arindam plays one character where, or I don't remember it correctly, but it says that they show these stars as they're playing tennis properly. They're also successful businessmen. They're also having a great personal life. How is this possible in real life? But she then gets to know the real person behind the image in one way, and Arindam also learns from her that, okay, it's all right to be normal. You also need to vent out to someone too. So that's the whole relationship, you can say, which they had.
Yeah, that line or that exchange with Aditi, she's describing all these different characters that he plays so perfectly, and I think the punchline to that was like, and it's all one character.
Exactly, yes. It's all one character. As I said, now,
um,
the stars are gods. The stars are they're like the stars are, they're the magicians. They can do everything. So that's the kind of thing.
they're the heroes.
Yeah,
All
they're
right,
the
we have
heroes.
one last comment here from our good buddy Mark, the movie man Krawcheck. I need to see this
Yeah.
film. Sounds intriguing. Well, yes, you do, Mark. I think everybody needs to see this
Yes,
this
yes, yes.
film because it's quite remarkable. But speaking of remarkable films, Shashwat, you've got something that you want to announce.
Yes.
Do you want me to bring up the image first, or do you want to
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about it?
yeah.
Okay, let me
You
see if
can
I
bring
can.
up the image.
I'm gonna try and do this, and we'll see if
Yeah,
this
you
works.
can bring
Hey,
up the
look at
image.
that.
Yeah, it's not yet over here. Yeah.
What?
So
Okay, can you
yes,
see it? All right, cool.
yes,
There might
yes,
be a
yes.
little bit of a
So
delay. Sorry. So yeah, there you go. What do you want to tell us about breaking barriers?
yeah, this is again, all those amazing people I talked about. Those people are working on this film. This is a documentary film about this degree which I'm in, and it's been in development since the last year July end. And yes, I can't reveal much more at this stage because it's still in the post production stage, and we hope that it comes out by June. So yes, and
Excellent.
it's going to be interesting, and it's again shot in a very different way, which I will tell you in a different episode, hopefully, and we'll talk about it in a different episode. And yes,
Not hopefully, definitely. We're going to talk about that. And yeah, I definitely want to hear your perspective on it, but maybe we could have some other folks who are involved in the,
yes,
make
yes,
it a
yes,
panel or
you should
something
be,
and talk about the whole
exactly,
process.
yeah,
That'd be
yeah, yeah.
great.
Yes, yes,
Cool.
yes.
Well, Shashwat, I can't thank you enough for talking about not only Nyack, also introducing me to Nyack and Satyajit Ray, and also giving us, some in-depth insight into your remarkable journey. I think you've got a bright future ahead. Now, the one thing I do want to end with this, and it's a question.
Yes.
Are you going to be like a professional filmmaker? Is that your aspiration, or how are you going to work in data science? Or like, I know it may be an impossible question to ask, but like, what's your dream?
I also don't know. I really don't know. Like, I wish I had an answer for that, but I really don't. And I'm telling it very honestly because I don't know what I want to become or what I want to do as of now. But yeah, let's see what happens. That's the only honest answer I have. And yes, let's see how much longer I make films or how much this happens. And yeah, let's hope for the best because I really don't have an answer for that. And I also want to say this, that thank you. It's a huge honor for me to be on your show, and I really never thought that I would be giving an interview to you someday. And thank you so much for having me. It really felt great. I really had a great time speaking about Nyack and my own films. It feels really, I will be honest, it feels really strange to talk about my own films in a live show, but I'm so glad that you invited me for this, and I'm really happy to do this. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad you said yes. But yeah, we'll be back. I'm going to set something up with you. We'll be back next month talking about a different film, and also continuing to talk about your films, and the the progress on breaking barriers and all that good stuff. But yeah, thank you for hanging out. Thank you all for watching. Those who are watching live and also in the future, please feel free to like and subscribe and share this, and also check out Shashwat's YouTube channel where he puts up his short films. Also, I'll have the interview that we did for IIT Madras Film Society a little while back. And yeah, until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you very much, and take care.